Welcome to All This Bliss. I'm Malaya, and I'm here today with another special guest. This is Ben Asiel Ben Nasi, or Prince Asiel, the former ambassador of the Hebrew Israelite community here in Israel. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I know it was hard for you to get here, so we're going to go ahead on and get started. I want everybody to know that this video is part 2. Part 1 was a video that I did with Aryeh, and basically that was talking about the trouble that took place in Dimona. Okay, the shocking experience he had when he visited Dimona. This is part 2 because Ben Asiel was actually the person that was taken and arrested just for walking through the village. Now, in my opinion, in my mind, this is just ridiculous. I can't understand how such a thing could take place. A public place, a person is just walking along and saying, I used to live here, and this is the cafeteria where everybody eats. A pleasant, nice walk. What happened?
For me, it was a continuance of what's been happening personally to me and other friends of mine who had chosen to move off the Kifar, but still an existing part of the nation as a whole. I met the man Aryeh through family, and we were all at Sipor's house, my mother-in-law, having dinner, and lunch at the time, and we're on our way to a barbecue out in the Grove for Pesach, and he said I wanted to go and see the community, and I told him I'll take him up there, but I told him that I can guarantee you they're going to attack me or jump on me for coming there, just for being up there.
Now, what made you feel that way?
Well, when I was 17 years old, I was thrown out of the community, out of the nation. And when I would come down to try to visit my parents, my mother at the time, security would come to the corner, or if I would come to the corner of my house, they would come and tell me to get off the Kifar, using profanity as well and force. And as far as I can remember, Fabricated was definitely always at the head of that group that would tell me that I wasn't welcome and also to leave Dimona. Now, I arrived in the Kifar when I was 8 years old. So all of my middle childhood to young adult life was spent there in the house where my family lived. And a lot of times they would hit me with staves, throw rocks at me.
Now, when you say staves, you're talking about a staff, like a walking stick that would be at least this high.
Similar to the one like they show in with
Moses?
Yeah.
And they would hit you with this?
Yes. Shariel, Skanakavia.
Now, these are names of the brothers that were
Security captains.
In the community.
Yeah. There's a couple of other brothers I can't remember their names. Some of them left the nation now. But all of those who were on security, and they would create a scenario that Ben Asiel was coming to kidnap children. This is what they had put out at the time.
Really?
That I was trying to start my own nation.
Oh my goodness.
And that I was coming down there to kidnap
17 years old,
yeah,
and you had the money and the connections and a place where you could take children, kidnap them and take them.
Yeah, that's what they put out there, quote unquote. So I knew what was going to come, and I knew who was going to come. So when we got up there, then Ammi was sitting in the gazebo. I don't know what he was doing. It looked like they were playing cards. But when we pointed out to Aryeh that he was there, I thought it was a blessing that he would get a chance to meet the man who, based on what Aryeh was telling me, he had did a lot of business transactions with them, as well as donated or invested money
Right.
into a community who, at the time, we were being sold as the product when they were getting donations.
People were the product.
Right. So anyway, we got up and left with the security, and they moved pretty fast. And like he said, they disappeared. At that point, I already knew. I said, "Here they come," because it was like a deja vu or just an update in history. I pointed out to him the Miklat, the first bomb shelter right there on the King's Court.
Right, the famous bomb shelter.
And I told him that was the torture chamber, that where we were beaten or abused or whatever the case was down there. That's where you were.
It was a very dark and eerie place.
Yeah.
It was like it was a haunting place where you could almost feel the torture that went on down there.
Yeah, so every time
when I say torture, I mean the beatings that a lot of brothers, even sisters and children, they suffered from those beatings.
And every time I go by there, I still shake and get nervous from the horror. So at that point, we started walking on in and going up, and I was explaining to him who lived here and just childhood memories, which actually started bringing a good feeling to me after passing the meek like that.
Because there was good and bad.
Right.
It's like a bittersweet type of experience to go back there after all these years.
So by the time we reached going up the hill towards where my father lived and my brother Ammi Carter lived next door, and I told him that my brother was sick and I was going to go see him.
Oh, okay.
And so we were doing the tour up till I was going to show him where I grew up at.
Right.
And by the time we got close to where you go up the stairs to go to the hill, Akavia, Scott, and Shmuel were behind us with sticks. And then they had two other young ones following them. And so by the time we got up on the first level of the hill, Omar, Kazriel's son, turned around and said, "Why are y'all following us?" And Akavia said, "We live here." And Omar said, "Well, we live here too. We lived here too. This is still our home." He said, "We got a right to watch y'all." And he said, "Why y'all? What y'all want up here?" And he said, "What you mean want up here?" And so I said, "Omar, don't get into nothing with them. Let's keep walking."
Right.
By the time I got to Ammi Carter's house, I went inside to see him, hugs, greeting, Kaksamea, happy holiday. And Kavya was standing in the direct angle where he was still watching me. Ammi Carter's door was open to the back door. And I heard Alona say, like, "The police want you." So I walked out, and the officer said, where, which one is it? And he pointed to me, and the officer immediately grabbed me without questioning anything. And I said, "Hold on, what do you want?" He said, "Where's your ID? You are under arrest for suspicion of robbery." I said, "What robbery?" Now, at this time, Akavia walks behind the officer. From behind the officer, cuts him, because Aria was standing in front of me and Alona were like behind me, and he walked in between them and pointed, he has a knife. So I said, "What knife?" I said, "Oh, that's what y'all coming with." And I reached in my pocket, and I said, "Oh, that's a good one." So I was still laughing. I gave it to the officer, like, "This isn't mine." I said,
You said to him that it wasn't your
I said, "This is mine, and this is what y'all trying to do, plant, And so I was in a joking mind, but the officer grabbed me with force, and "You under arrest." And so they took me in the car and they took me down to the police station. When I got to the police station, I was accused of trying to, this is exact words that the officer said, I tried to break into Benami's house.
Oh! Now, according to REA, there were 5 people in the tour group.
Yes.
And so they would have been witnesses.
Right.
But they alleged that you had tried to break into the Holy Messiah Ben Carter's house.
Right. That was to get me off the community
And they came specifically for you. I can't help but notice that they came specifically for you. So what was that all about? Please explain to me. Was this a grudge?
I feel like that. I feel that the hate level with certain individuals in the community is at all time high with me. I've always been treated in that way. Even when I was a child in the community, I was singled out as the bandit or the bad guy or one who would be a bad influence on people. And I had to carry that. That's from about the age of 11. And personally, because many, even during the time when all of my friends left, like Aton and Amram, who was Ben Ammi's son and Nasi Gabriel's son, they were always allowed to come to Kifar and see their families. And I was never allowed that. I was always threatened. I've, over the years, received calls where people would call me and say, "We're going to kill you."
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, this is all bringing back to mind some of the things that Avinaton said to me when he said to me that when they outed him, when I say out, I mean he didn't come out and publicly state that he was gay. And they, in effect, outed him and accused him of being gay, and because he really wanted to live the life according to the community, but they forced him out. And he felt as though he was singled out at that time. So there's a lot of, I won't say a lot, but in some cases there are people that if it looks as though Ben Ammi doesn't like you, then you're going to have a hard time in the community. Would you say that
well,
was
they, in each generation or in each scenario of corruption or dirt that goes on, they have what they call a fall guy. And they single out this person and put all of that negative energy on him as being responsible for the whole.
Well, you know, if you really want to take it a step further, this beef that's going on right now between Ben Ammi and your father looks like he's trying to make your father a fall guy now. But that's further on down the road. Let's get back to the issue at hand. Now, they arrested you.
Okay, yes. Well, at the time they told me that they were just holding me for questioning. I was not really arrested. I was taken to the station. They call it Mukaf, meaning like you just, right now, we're holding you.
Question?
For
okay.
questioning.
Right.
So I was on the phone and sitting and chilling and thinking, okay, I'm not arrested. So when I told the officer that house is heavily guarded, and there's no way I would, and then I wouldn't,
24/7?
I wouldn't, even though I'm interested to know what treasures lies in there, I didn't do that. And so he was back and forth on the phone, and the copy came down to the police station as the liaison for the police, because the community and the police are in bed together, as I would say.
Oh, you're saying they're in cahoots?
Yeah, the police works for anyone who's not on the Ben Ammi thing, meaning like they will come to his call if anything goes down to get people out that he don't want there. They're actually secure, right? Just like the police work for this society and this system. He's a part of that system that has police protection. And I'll talk some more about that. So I told him straight up, I said, if I called the cops on them, y'all would never come. And then I started bringing up that I remember running down here at 15 with blood dripping down my behind because I had been whooped. And I don't remember y'all jumping. And then I brought this up to I was talking to this. So are y'all on the payroll? And so, no, we're just trying to keep the law. And I'll show you how it isn't so. It wasn't more than 5 minutes, and two cars, police cars came to come and get me. And the officer pulled out his taser with no threat. I forgot to tell you about that.
Oh my goodness.
He put his taser out, but there was no threat. I was not hostile. I was with Alona, my son, and some guests. There was no reason, because I won't lie that sometimes I used to carry a knife because of fear of them jumping on me.
Right.
But that wasn't the occasion. I went in peace, and so.
Because in Israel, people carry weapons.
Right.
You see people walk around daily with Uzis.
Right.
People carry guns.
Right.
People carry knives. This is the order of the day. It's not something that is uncommon to see.
Right.
But my question is, how did he know that the knife was in your pocket?
That's the big question, except that he put it there because the knife is only 7 inches long.
But how did he put it in your pocket?
He came from behind me while the officer was grabbing me, and he was pushing me forward. I had
so it was like
I was wearing them kind of pants that you shouldn't, that the hip hop kind of, so I had they were sagging, and I had a big pocket.
Right.
They wasn't sagging, but the pocket is big like this.
So you made it
So
easy
it's
for him
impossible
to
for
plant that.
him to be able to say he saw a knife, because 7 inches in my pocket is 10 inches long.
Oh my goodness.
This is the things that my lawyer brought to the case. That how could he possibly see a knife that's 7 inches with a 10-inch pocket?
Okay.
And it's a vegetable cutting knife. It's a fruit knife. It wasn't a.
It was the only knife they could find at the
Right.
time. So what else happened?
And so I cooperated with them about this so-called robbery. So they came back. He left out. He said, 1 minute. He went and talked to a copy. A copy told him, no, not Vietnamese house. He tried to break inside Saska's house, which I'm familiar with that story, which also isn't true. And so he said, no, you tried to break in the Vietnamese secretary house. I said I didn't do such thing. I remember the case. They told me about this 30 days ago. When I first heard it, I went immediately to the police station. I said, I heard that a complaint was filed concerning me trying to break in the house. They searched the computers. He said, there is no record and you can go. Now, I asked him to show me the form that of this arrest, that I was the suspect. It also does not exist in the computers.
You mean the incident in
Before
which
we not even got to the knife. Yeah, the incident with me supposedly breaking in Sai Saska's house, I asked to see the paperwork because a complaint had to be filed to prove that this is even a legitimate thing. No, it wasn't in the computer, which means that this is what confirms that the officers, they got their own officers to police their own people.
Okay.
And so
what, and did you do jail time? Did they let you go?
they took me to Beersheba prison. Well, I'm gonna get to that. What happened was after that, he came, I sat there for 6 hours. Now, Alona, Aryeh, Avishakar and Omar were outside asking, can they come and make a testimony? Because they were there.
Yes.
They said, we are witnesses in the case.
Yes.
We also have that filmed.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's going to come out with this news thing I'm doing. And the police officers trying to move the camera. We don't have to explain to y'all nothing. So when I was being questioned, I asked that the witnesses for my defense be able to make a statement on what they saw. They refused to allow them to come in and make any kind of statement, but it was a caveat sitting in the sergeant's office until they made an arrest. So he sat there 6 hours, and they also created false witnesses for the breaking and entry.
What?
So it was been 2 young guys. I don't want to put people's names out there right now. That didn't stick. So my lawyer called from Beersheba and he said, I'm representing Ben Brown. They said, no, we're going to let him go. So it's not necessary for you to come down. So he didn't come. I told him I didn't want to speak until I had a lawyer concerning, because now they put the cuffs on me and said, you're arrested for carrying a knife. That don't exist no more. But the reason why they came and got me from the community was saying that I broke in. But now you're arrested for holding a knife.
It sounds very complicated and fabricated.
Yes, and I told him that the knife wasn't mine, the knife was planted on me. And by me knowing the law, they arrested me on the grounds of someone's house, my brother's house, which even by law you're not supposed to carry a knife. There's certain standards and rules to carry a knife in Israel.
Well, first of all, I lived in that community for over 30 years, and my question is, how do you break into a house? We have no locks on those doors. People are free to come and go as they please. So what determined you pick locking or breaking through a window or
Oh,
whatever?
well, no, he didn't even say, he said that it was an attempt break-in.
An attempt.
Meaning that, and he said that you crossed, in Hebrew, it's like crossing personal property. And at that point,
Trespassing.
Trespassing. I said, I got the move.
Okay.
And I said, how did I trespass when I was sitting in the car? I never got out the car. I dropped off an Afiel, who I was working with him at the time. And I was waiting on him. And they saw me sitting in the car, and I saw security running back and forth. And so anyway, I said, that's not private property. And I'm able to go anywhere, you know. Now I didn't, so they saw that was all some fabricated thing, but the point was get Ben out of here and get him, lock him up.
So why do you think there is it just a personal grudge, or are they specifically concerned with something that you might say or reveal, or what is all of the paranoia? In your opinion, what is all of the paranoia about?
I've been trying to figure that out for years, but I'm understanding that this generation that we are, who we are, is a direct threat to the present leadership and the pioneers and the people who designed this thing, because we are going to expose them as false prophets.
Right.
Being born in this, I've lived it more than they taught it. Mm-hmm. And I always say that even, about my father, he taught and he brought people here and he could talk about it, but I actually lived the experience of that idea.
Right.
And so that's the only thing, because we were targeted from the time every male got about 10 and 11 from my period, born in the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. When you reach 12, 13, 14 years old, you're a target to destroy you, suppress you, and to really drive you mad until you run off.
My goodness, so many of the youth, the male youth in particular, because the girls, a few of them were thrown out at 14 and 15, or they ran away because of all of the abuse. But the boys in particular suffered terribly because they were considered a threat. And in a lot of cases, I had heard that if a boy liked a girl and some male had his eye on that girl, then they would move heaven and hell to get him out of there.
Woo.
So
those are some serious stories where yeah, that's another story too, but absolutely true. But the thing is that the males, they were trying to force us into submission.
Yes.
They was trying to, it was another form of control. Mm-hmm. So they start off from about 8 to 15 beating you, torturing you, publicly embarrassing you, downing you, to make you give your soul to this man,
yes,
to this system that was created.
Right.
And if you wouldn't break, they throw you out.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And us being strong spirit. Now this is the sacrifice made by, these are our fathers doing this.
Right.
This ain't no strangers. These are the brothers. And this was a system created by example at the time. He was showing that, look, this is how I'm doing my kids. In order for us to hold
his children speak vehemently about how they were abused, and they were not spared at all. It's a terrible thing. But this is something that if you were one that would never complain, if you were one that would do whatever was asked of you without question, without fail, then you were rewarded. They would say, okay, well, you can become we'll give you this title or that title because that made you feel special, and you have to keep all the other little slaves in check.
I'm gonna call it tyranny training.
Yeah.
And when you pass, then you will become the perfect tyrant, and you'll be titled according to that. Like, you are ready now to torture these people and rule and cruelty and despotism, you know. And it's like, leaders were supposed to be chosen by people, but the leader chose these people because he was comfortable with the group. It's like submission. Don't use your mind. Don't think for yourself. And whoever didn't submit, and that's part of that perfect heart thing. You know, how do you give your perfect heart to an unperfect heart?
Okay, now you might want to, just for our viewers, just explain what that perfect heart was. It was a ritual.
Yeah, exactly. The perfect heart, from when I remember, 1989, 1990, when I was old enough to understand what was going on, was that every citizen of the community were to submit and pledge their allegiance to Ben Ammi and his God. And I put it like that, meaning that everybody used the God of Israel, but his version of the God of Israel. But through him, there was, you submit to him, and then he will be the intercessor between you and God. You cannot, it wasn't no way around that. And you would kneel before him in all white and repeat a chapter from the Bible that the priest would tell you what to say before you even went in the room. And you would be given your perfect heart, meaning totally submitting your soul and your body to the man.
And at this time, he would sit on they made it up to be like a throne.
Yeah,
that he would sit on, and some people would actually kiss his feet or kiss his hands and all of this. But it was only after you had to wait for hours in the hot sun, or literally some people would faint until he decided to come from out of his
and what happened with that was that if you didn't give your perfect heart, and this is every year, you have to renew that. This is before the marriage. Repledge, and if you didn't, then you were not considered to be in the sanctuary.
The Holy Father, that's my question is, now your father brought in more people into the community than anybody. He was the international ambassador. Did he teach you as a child that this man was the Messiah?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He didn't say the Messiah. I went through stages where I was under mostly Prince Asiel. My father wasn't here. My father really didn't start using that method or teaching me the deity aspect of it until I saw my dad 18, 19. This is when I had left, when they had kicked me out and I came back. And so I would put part of the reprogramming structure for me to understand what was going on based on how he understood it. Abba Shaliach was the one who was teaching me the Christian Hebrew doctrine, the Judean Christian doctrine, meaning, and so at the beginning they said that he was the second coming because the Christians used to say that Yeshua was coming, Jesus was coming back. The Jews say that the Mashiach is coming. Everybody was looking for this. This is the propaganda and the talk of the 70s, 60s, and the old way in the 19th century or 20th century. So they told me that he was the second coming, Prince of Peace, that he was going to, by 1977, have full control of the Israeli government and the Knesset. As a child, we were learning in school, not academics for this world, but we were being programmed for the cult. Or at that time, I didn't think it was a cult, for the kingdom of heaven. And so they would tell us mythical things like in Greek and Roman things, that Ben Ammi would disappear. He had been arrested and disappeared.
I heard a lot of urban legends about
Yeah.
the different powers that he possessed. He could raise people from the dead. All of these, you know, and which I never really took seriously. But
when you catch somebody at 3, 4 years old, you believe it.
Right. Before we close out, was there anything else that you wanted to say in regards to what happened or any plans for the future?
First, I just want to say thank you for inviting me.
You're more than welcome.
And I'm totally committed to this process because most of my children were born here. I was born here. Mm-hmm. My oldest daughter is 17. She's going to have children. And if they want to come live here, I'm trying to create the avenue and those doors to be open where we can be respected. We're not going to sneak people in here anymore. Mm-hmm. and live without status. Right. There's a formula for that where so that if you want to come live in Israel and be a good citizen, you know, and I'm totally committed to that. I know I've made mistakes and I have my faults and I'm willing to accept that. But I know in comparison, I couldn't, the tip of a needle couldn't compare to the things that I know that we'll talk about in the future, about the schemes and lies that these leadership have done to keep control. Mm-hmm. The deals that they made with, I was programmed to believe that the Israeli, when we were growing up, they were called the heathen and the enemy, and that we were the true people. Mm-hmm. So when you make a league with them, and now we're accepting it, that means that the whole foundation of my theology growing up, as far as related to community, doesn't exist anymore because everything been compromised. We were told we would never go to the army. I have a friend named Yirmiah who's now big in the army in America, but he and I asked Ben Ammi in '89, could we go to the army, Israeli army? We asked to join. He sent a message out with Kenyatta. He said that we would be a bogade and an oyev, a traitor and an enemy, if we would go. So the dream takers stopped that because, I mean, we wanted to do that, but at some point, so in my mind, I'm thinking in 17, 18, the army is the enemy. And then I see everybody going to the army now. So everything that I feel I was taught principles to be true is a lie. Right. And it's so much more to talk about.
Well, is there anything that you want to say? Because actually, you're actually considered still one of the youth. you're an adult, but I'm old school. Right. So, is there anything you want to say to your peer?
I can only say that I hope that they open their minds and not block it to hear and to listen to what we're trying to do and to study. The reason why I found out this not to be true in the sense of the way men are doing it is because I read the books that they were telling me they were teaching out of. And they're not standing up to that standard. They're not even living by that. And so, I mean, if we settle for the small stuff, we'll never be great. And those who desire to be great, if a 9 to 5 mixing semen is good for you, God bless you and I'm with you. But if you want to be an engineer, and if you want to build airplanes, and if you want to fly, that's where I'm going with this. If you want to be in the cabinet so we can have our own say-so, that's what I want to do.
Yes, I agree.
I want to get in the Knesset because I want to sit in one of those seats that control 7 million people. I want to have some say-so. I want
and there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Right. No, I'm going for it.
There's no reason why you shouldn't. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and close out. I want to thank you because we were concerned and we wanted to know what happened. You know, I was very upset to hear that you had been, how much time did you spend there in that jail?
7 days.
7 days, unjustly imprisoned for some foolishness like that.
For the crime of going to visit my brother in the village next door to my father's home where I grew up at. And I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
So you've had your opportunity to vindicate yourself. And as I said before, if there is someone that feels as though this report has been done in error, then you're free to come and speak your piece. So with that, again, we want to thank everybody for joining us, and I'm sure Ben Asiel will be back again with some more things, because he told me there were some other things that he wanted to bring at a later date.
Yes.
But he has some things that he has to do. So we're going to go ahead and close out. Love you, and have a blissful day. And don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe. Peace out.